Welcome to Better Relationships, Better Life, where relationships expert Judy K. Herman and her guests share insights that can help you move through conflicts in your 9-to-5 jobs and your 24/7 lives. Crack the clarity code and create deeper connections beyond the messiness of relationships. Here's your host, Judy K. Herman.
This is part 2, which is a continuation of our conversation last week with John Register and his daughter Ashley, who have teamed up to share their powerful perspectives through conversations that matter. This father-daughter duo are known for their commitment to being an inspiration, a family with values, to stand up for what's right, to being brave even when no one is looking. Daughter Ashley Register is a dedicated and seasoned event professional, as well as a singer and songwriter in Atlanta, Georgia. Her father, John Register, is a silver medalist, Paralympic athlete, Olympic trials qualifier, combat Army veteran, and amputee. As a professional speaker, he inspires people to hurdle adversity, amputate fear, and embrace a new normal mindset to win life's medals. Last week, John shared about overcoming the trauma of becoming an amputee after training for the Olympics. And Ashley shared about her experience in leading a peaceful protest, advocating for Black Lives Matter with the courage and faith she had been taught by her family. We're talking about how to amputate fear in parenting and family life. John reminds us, when our truth outweighs our fear, we will commit to courageous acts. Let's listen in.
When our truth, capital T, outweighs our fear, we will commit to courageous acts. And that's why it is, that's why the presentations, it's not about others. It's not about left versus right. It's about what do you do? How do you show up? And that's a value that we instill in our family. And it's people run from that. They do not want to be held accountable.
Wow. Well, Ashley, what was it? How was your fear meter, so to speak, from maybe a scale of 1 to 10? You were like, terrified to death. Like, what was that experience or that decision like for you to lead a group to do that? And then even anticipate mom and dad, wonder what they're going to say here. Like, what was your experience and your emotional experience with all of this?
I think I've always been kind of an emotionally, level person. And one of the values that I was brought up on was faith. And, I had a word and I believed that this is what I was supposed to do. And because it came from God, I knew that I was going to be protected. So the fear wasn't a question in my mind. It was honestly just like, what am I going to say to all these people who are mourning, who are grieving, who are, hurting just as much as I'm hurting? How do I give them some sort of comfort? How do I, kind of move the conversation, move the needle? Because, everyone was shouting Black Lives Matter, but this wasn't new to our community. This wasn't something that was, just showing up on our radar. We've seen it. I've grown up with it. Trayvon Martin what happened when I was in middle school. So just knowing all of those things, there wasn't any fear that I felt like I needed to overcome, because like my dad said, when your truth outweighs your fear, you'll commit to a courageous life. And my truth was, I was going to be safe. My truth was, I have called you to do this. My truth was, you are protected, you are surrounded, you are secure. So there wasn't a fear that I needed to overcome to, step out on faith and to do this thing and to lead these people and to, have my life, put in harm's way, because I knew I was going to be protected at the end of the day.
This is such a very powerful topic, especially today. There's so many folks that I've dealt with in counseling and in other arenas that people are afraid to feel fear, right? They're like, they stay stuck and it makes their lives very small. But fear is a universal thing. To be able to feel it, to me, I think, and you talked about this very eloquently, Ashley. It's kind of like this passageway to growth, to a different level, to a different character development, so to speak, I guess, if that's what you want to say. But you didn't have your mind on yourself. You had it on others. And that is so beautiful. Like, that is so cool. That's going to stick with you. But I think once you face your fear, you realize, oh, you can take a deep breath, but it does bring you to a different level of life, I believe. Don't you think, John, from your story, even, and all the things you've gone through?
Well, I think we grow from faith to faith, right? And what we focus on, that we're calling into existence, that is what is going to be planted in the ground. So we have to really be cautious on what we're listening to and what we're seeding into the ground, because it's not karma. It's not what goes around comes around. Karma is a previous life, and we're trying to atone for something in this now life of what has happened previously. And so that's, everybody's born with karma, and what goes around comes around. It's a one-to-one relationship. So it's kind of like Newton's law. There's an equal and reaction for what's put out. The law of planting and harvesting, though, is when one seed goes into the ground, it produces multiple fruit from that. That's the same as the fruit that was, or the seed that was planted from that fruit in the ground. So you can't plant orange seeds and get apple trees.
That's right.
Whatever we plant is going to spring forward. So it can be positive or negative. Whatever we plant, I can tell a person's life by what is growing after them. And so what I see in Ashley's life from this and the growth that she's had is her ability for all these experiences to explore and to question and to be inquisitive without putting people down, but elevating people up. She went to, after after which I knew, her mother didn't know.
Mom's going to be listening to this.
But she knows, but to Athens, Greece, so she, I won't get in the whole story, but she wound up going with a different group. And all they were going to do was, when she got over there, was meet at a kiosk at the Athens airport. And then they would go off, right? So she's going halfway around the world. And I told her, I am not Liam Neeson. I do not have a special set of skills. So you need to be absolutely calling me whenever you land all this thing. So, but that is a growth from her experience in Sydney, Australia, from going to Paris, to testing her wings with this experience here, what we're just talking about with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. And then now she is going to test her wings around the world because she has a global perspective. Most Americans don't even own a passport. And they want to give you a global perspective on what they heard from this channel or that channel.
I want to just hold this, because this is a father-daughter relationship. And here's the thing that I'm seeing with you two, that Ashley, you're seeing your dad live this life of bravery and moving through fear. Like, he's paved the way for you. So many parents of grown children are like too much in the business of trying to control their children's lives, but they don't realize what an influence that they can have by continuing their own growth and modeling exactly. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's from my therapist point of view here, and family system stuff here.
Well, I think it. Go ahead, Ashley.
I was going to say, I completely agree. And when, when he told my mom and then eventually told my brother and myself that he was, about to pursue speaking full time, I think I was going into my senior year of college or maybe just graduating. And I didn't know what life after college was going to look like. And I knew that I was probably going to have to move back home. So what would that look like? But to see him, really just have the faith to just go out and do it, and, sink or swim was going to happen through the highs and the lows. He kept pursuing, his goal, and he's still doing it. that really opened up my eyes as well to come out to Atlanta on my own and do the things that I'm doing out here. And I mean, just packing up and kind of going. So it is, you know, planting seeds like he was talking about, and it is being able to I don't want to say walk in his footsteps, but be able to, you know, see the things that he's doing in his life and try to mimic my life after that. And you know, the way that I go through life and the way that I, you know, try to create something for myself or create something of a legacy. Because I imagine that's some of the motivating factor behind what he's doing is he wants to leave a legacy not only for his children, but for his grandchildren and people who come after. And for me, it's the same way. It's what are we leaving behind us, and what are the cultures that we're creating for our family, and what is the vision that we're creating for our family, and how are we gonna, you know, keep that vision alive even when we're not here anymore.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You are living the abundant life. You know, just realizing, and I write about emotions, how valuable they are to our humanity. God has blessed us with emotions, and fear and anger and irritability, as well as peace and harmony and happiness. They're all temporary messengers to our souls. So going back to the fear idea, you know, amputating fear, but it's like you're choosing to feel the fear and yet move forward with that invitation that I think is a bigger life. Here's a quick pause for an important message. When it comes to workplace and personal relationships, many of these episodes give us insights into people skills, strategies, and creating a healthy work culture. As a speaker and retreat facilitator, I also support organizations and companies. Go to my media page, judyspeaker.com, to find out how I can help. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Judy K. Herman. And now, back to our conversation. You're choosing to feel the fear and yet move forward with that invitation that I think is a bigger life for all of us. So
yeah,
anyway.
I think, Judy, and when I talk about fear, it's not just fear as the broad context, right? I'm very specific with naming the fear that we have, because when you name it, it can be destroyed, right? You can get rid of it. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to my audiences, the fear is, I'll use myself as an example, because I always go first. I used to say I still say in my presentations, but I explain it now, is one of my fears was my wife leaving me when I had my amputation. So there are a lot of things that were going on in my head with that, you know, but that has nothing to do with her.
Yeah, it has everything to do with just, you.
It's all me.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what we are very good as humans at casting our fear onto others and saying they're to blame for our problems. It's us. And that's why it's difficult work.
That's right.
Because my fear was not her leaving. My fear was, am I still desirable? Do I still belong? Who told me I don't belong? Where is that coming from? So all these things we have to unpack with the fear that they're facing. We can't push it outward. It has to come inward, and we can deal with it. And then we can make that courageous jump. And so the more you practice that, yes, then you get like, I was not afraid of Ashley going to Atlanta at all. She had never visited there.
Hey, that's a piece of cake after what she's been through.
Because I know I've seen her, right? I know what she's capable, and I know we're in sync. Yes. And I know she has to do this. So, okay, let's get the U-Haul. Let's go.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not that I don't miss her, but this is her path. This is what she has to do. She's during COVID, she learned how to play the piano. She took singing lessons, and now she's a singer-songwriter. She's out there. She's been an event planner since starting at the University of Northern Colorado Greeley, so much so that she got hired by the Broadmoor Hotel right before the pandemic. So a 5-star hotel, and one of the only 5-star hotels in our country. So I know she's capable. That's not it. And I told her going out there, I'm going to use my network to open up opportunity for you. It's not about, I'm not going to open up opportunity if I don't think you can do the work, right? If you haven't paved it, because what happens is we get individuals that haven't done the work, and then their parents open up opportunity for them. And they haven't done, they're not qualified.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a disconnect. So it's not about, and I say this to my audiences a lot anyway, it's not about hard work, right? I'm sorry. It's not about hard work, because we all know people that have worked really hard and don't have anything. We know people that have worked really hard and have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We also know people that haven't worked so hard and don't have anything. We also know people that haven't worked so hard and have everything. It's about opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it when we have, and this study's been done numerous times over by different groups, why is it if I have the same exact resume sent out to 2,000 companies that are hiring, and Becky, Peter, Tim get the first look, while Jamal, Jose, any other ethnic kind of name that we have, a quote unquote ethnic name, is 10 times less likely to get that same look, same resume. So it's not about the hard work. They've all went through Yale. They all went through Harvard. They all went through whatever school was putting that paper before them on their education. It's who's looking at that resume.
Yeah.
And why are they excluding someone that has the exact same qualifications? It's about opportunity. And so that's what we're trying to access here, is the opportunity and make equality in that vein. And that's a deeper conversation, but.
Wow. Well, you and your wife have done a wonderful job raising Ashley. Ashley, you're a remarkable woman. You've got some awesome parents. What are your closing thoughts? What do you think parents, or even Ashley, from your perspective, adult daughters need to know?
I would circle back to one of the first points that I made, and just tell them to realize that we are all on this earth to continue to grow. If you are still here, it's because you still have more to learn, more to do. And in that, unfortunately, does include your parents. So, when we're going through life, you have to, they are your parents at the end of the day, but look at them as human beings, because they are that first, and allow them to grow, give them the grace and the space to, figure out what they're doing as well, because you can, be in a career for 25 plus years and change it at the drop of a dime. And that takes courage, that takes faith, that takes, overcoming your fear. And so we don't ever get to the point of like, oh, I learned how to overcome fear, and so now I'm done. Every single obstacle that comes in my way is going to be easy. Nope, it's going to be a challenge every single time. There's something new that they're going to learn every single time. And as you're going through your life and realizing the things that you have to go through and the obstacles that you have to go through, just remember that your parents are going through them as well.
I love that. And what also goes through my mind, Ashley, is like you've been a trustworthy daughter. I mean, you've grown to be trustworthy for your dad to trust you with what you're doing and decisions you're making. So that's like a really cool thing, in my opinion. I think that no matter what your family situation is, there's probably listeners or people that are watching this, and they might be saying, well, our family's not like that. Our family is like a mess or whatever. But you can take responsibility and be trustworthy, I think, as an adult daughter or son, and no matter what your situation is. But I love that. You're giving lots of grace to mom and dad. But I love that trust. That's what's coming to me, is that trustworthiness. John, what's your closing thoughts? Or what you want to share? And this, a lot of entrepreneurial couples are watching this, other business leaders and people in leadership. What kind of advice would you give dads?
Yeah, I think dads and daughters have just a very special bond. Same thing as like mothers and sons, and it's. I would offer to just show up, just be there. Sometimes conversations are awkward or whatnot, but just show up, be in the room, and be that listening ear and that sounding voice. Because I think, and Ashley's kind of shared that with me, she, and even this conversation, she's watching, right? She's watching how I'm showing up in the world. We use, a lot of scripture around the house, and, one is in Proverbs, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. And we know that we want to do the best we can. It's not that we have the perfect formula. It's just that we're going to extend grace. We're going to, have values that are going to uplift humanity and not tear humanity down. I always talk about in my presentations about bringing oxygen into the environment. So if oxygen leaves the environment, of course we die, but if oxygen leaves the environment slowly, we kind of just go to sleep. So are we just kind of going to sleep at the wheel as dads in our own homes? And can we just get that oxygen back to become more engaged? Just showing up. If it leaves all at one time, we panic because we're trying to get that next breath, and so we'll panic. And so in that moment, we're looking to get that salve or the next breath. And in either case, we need to be paying attention to the oxygen we're bringing into the environment, and it's always to elevate others. At least in our household, it's to lift others up. Soon as something's going on that's tearing somebody else down, we arrest it because we're not going to tear people down. Period. Full stop. Yeah. And we're going to lift. And that's why you will see Ashley, myself, we're always looking at writing about airplanes landing instead of looking for the one crash that's going to happen. And then of course we have that because we know the storyline when it happens. We just had a horrific thing happen in Colorado Springs, and we know the storyline. Storyline is, oh, we're so sorry for your loss. Our prayers are with you. We got to get to the bottom of this because X, Y, and Z is the cause of all this stuff. And then when it runs a 24-hour news cycle, they look for the next story. So we have to really look for the ones that are sustainable, and those are the good news stories that happen every single day.
Absolutely.
That we just don't pay attention to.
Yeah. And that is such good brain health too, to be able to be more optimistic, to see that, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. It's not to put your head in the sand, but to focus. It's like wherever your focus is, that's where your energy is going to be going. So thank you two so much. How can folks get, and I want to give hope to listeners, because I know there's some folks that may be listening and they might be thinking, well, I really messed up my family or whatever,
No.
and it's never too late to really tune in, and it's never too late to connect with your adult daughter or son if there is some estrangement going on. I believe that relationships are always changing, and you can make a positive difference. But John and Ashley, you've just been such an inspiration, definitely on so many levels. How can folks get in touch with you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn at Ashley Register, and that is the best way to get in contact with me.
Awesome.
And all my social media is at johnregister.com. So LinkedIn, everything's out there on that page.
Well, thank you two so much for being here. It's just been so insightful and inspiring. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Judy.
Wow. I was so inspired talking with John and Ashley. There was so much wisdom in this conversation. No matter where you are in your relationship, there's hope. Here's some of my takeaways from today. Number one, as grown sons or daughters, give your parents grace. Allow them to be just as human as you are. Number two, dads, show up. Be a listening ear and extend grace and bring oxygen into the room. And number three, uplift humanity. Always elevate others. Lift people up. Look for the good news stories that are sustainable. What resonated with you? Be assured that I read every comment from those who share their takeaways by filling out the form on the website, betterrelationshipsbetterlife.com. Now, I must announce that this is episode number 50. I'm excited that every week for an entire year, I've shown up in front of the microphone every week, bringing you oxygen into your relationships and life. And with this, we've completed season 1 of Better Relationships, Better Life. Stay tuned for season 2 and for my next book, soon to be published, entitled Relationships with Purpose: Secrets to Better Relationships and a Better Life. In the meantime, please share, subscribe, rate, and comment in the streaming platform of your choice. And be sure to enjoy Better Relationships, Better Life.